What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Faithful Fanatic Show. As always, I am one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. And today I'm joined by my faithful co-host, Mr. 63 Points himself, Matt McGinty. You can find him on Twitter at Matt_McGinty. And as you guys know, we are streaming to you guys live through DSM Media's Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook accounts. So if you're new to the channel, head on over to at DSM_media. You can find a link tree in our bio to take you to every social media platform that we are on. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, and we also have a merch site up on TeePublic, so check that out as well. Abe checking in. What is going on? It's been a while since Abe's been in the chat, Gint, on a Faithful Fanatic show. It's been a minute. What's going on, Abe?
It's been a while.
And tonight, what's going on, Jeremy, member of Team DSM Media. Tonight we're going to get into the Bucks Sixers matchup. We'll hit on whatever the hell took place on Tuesday night at the Wells Fargo Center against the Celtics. That's one you just got to ball up and throw in the trash and never ever bring back up. And then we'll be talking more about the James Harden for Ben Simmons trade, the press conferences, the buyout market. We got a lot to get into in the 30 to 40 minutes that we are live. But Gint, what's going on, man?
Nothing, man. Excited to see the game tonight. Kind of gives you. We're at that point where we're at the break, and it's like maybe you can squeeze out a win here, and you look back and be like, "Wow, we stole one from Milwaukee before the break." That maybe bumps you up to the 3 seed rather than the 4 or 5 matchup. But
yeah,
or we could be in for part 2 of what happened the other night.
Yeah. So let's get to the other night first. Well, what do you have to say, Coach Ginn, about what's your logic after a loss like that? Like, it has to be ball it up, throw it away, lock it, throw away the key, and never, ever talk about it again, right?
Yeah. The Celtics shot 45 threes and shot 55%. That's a recipe for what you saw. They were unconscious. You saw in the first half, Jaylen Brown hitting logo threes to end the half. It was just one of those nights where you can't really get anything going. We were at like almost to a point at halftime. I remember I wrote to you guys, like, we're going to win this game. When Embiid did like that spin move, dunk on 2 people, I was like, okay, they're going to win this game. But every time we hit a shot, they'd hit 3 shots. Every time we'd get a stop, they'd get 5 stops. Embiid only takes 9 shots, even though he went to the free throw line pretty frequently. But like you mentioned, those nights happen. It's an 82-game season. You're going to get with that. And the Celtics probably played their best game of the year. I'd have to go back and look at their schedule and see their box scores, but I can't imagine they've shot over 56% from 3 while shooting 45 of them.
They tied a franchise record or set a franchise record for most 3-pointers made in a game with 25.
Like the Sixers starters were minus 40, minus 21, minus 34, minus 34, minus 29. It's never going to happen again.
If you go down the field goal like makes versus attempts throughout the box score, it's something to see, dude. It should be put in a museum because it's rough. Like, no one. Doyle was like 3 of 9. Matisse was 0 for 6. Danny was 1 for 5.
As a team, 29%. You'll never win a game with that.
No, but like you said, it's one of those nights where you can hit, the broadside of a barn and the other team is on fire from the logo, as you mentioned, with Jaylen Brown ending the half. But I had the same mindset. Like, I was sitting here watching the game and in my head, like, I don't know, normally when night's playing out like that, if it's halftime, I'll keep it on, but I'll be on my phone a lot more. I was still holding out. I was still hoping, that they could find a way to come back in this game. And I was like, if they could just get it to around 15 by halftime, maybe they have a shot. And I remember they got it to 17 with like 2 or so minutes left in the half. And then boing, right back up to like 26. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's going to do it for tonight. And then I kept watching to see some valuable Paul Millsap minutes, which we'll get to later, because Paul Millsap needs to definitely be in this rotation over that slop you call Furkan Korkmaz. My God. But again, he did it again.
No, yeah. Korkmaz's got to go. The scoop layup that gets tossed off the glass is
never every night.
It really is every night. I know exactly what you're alluding to. But to just break some things down about it, you look at this as probably maybe a potential playoff matchup. So it's definitely things to take away from it. And Matisse Thybulle seems to just always be a deer in headlights against Boston. They do a really good job of funneling the ball to him pretty much every single time we're in the half court, it seems. And they dare him to beat him, and he can't. And I understand he's very important when it comes to guarding Jaylen Brown, guarding Jason Tatum. But if you're not going to be able to make shots, and I know James Harden's on the way, so it's a different story. We're going to see that for the first time eventually. But if he can't hit shots when they're forcing double teams on Joel Embiid, you got to start to look at a different way for him, whether it's putting him in the Ben spot where he's in the dunker spot. And I don't know. It's definitely, it seems every time we play them, he's 1 for 7, 0 for 6, 2 for 9. It never seems to be a good game for him. So it's going to be something, again, that is probably going to change drastically with a top 10 NBA player joining your team in a couple
Well,
weeks. So
again, it's just funny to me, like, and I'm not just taking one game because this isn't just a one game example. It's over his career against Boston, like you've said, and it's just a lot of nights. It just makes me chuckle. And I'm glad Daryl got to hold on to him. I'm glad he's still here. Don't get me wrong. I know what he does on the defensive side of the floor. But it just brings back the memories and the tweets of everybody. You couldn't trade for James Harden if it included Matisse Thybulle. And what you just said, right? So he was 0 for 6, 0 for 6 from 3. He's shooting around 30% on the year, well below league average. And again, you mentioned the defensive side of the ball. Oh, he's got to guard Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum tore the Sixers up. So what did Matisse Thybulle attribute to that game the other night? Now, granted, everybody was horrible. I'm not trying to pick on Matisse. I'm just saying, like, if he can't be the 3 in 3 and D, and as far as the D goes, you know, it's a night to night thing because he's not going to be able to lock down the perimeter wing players and perimeter guards of this league night in and night out. It's a tough assignment.
it's the toughest thing to do in the sport,
Right.
just to guard these guys.
That was my point. How is that untouchable?
No, yeah, it's not. But to kind of jump back into like nitpicking things, and when you lose like that, I know we said throw it out, and maybe it's just because it was blatant. It's when Harden gets inserted, what Philadelphia's going to do on the defensive end is definitely in question. Because when you look at like the Celtics, for example, you start Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, and Al Horford. Where do you hide Harden and Maxey? Not that you have to hide Maxey, but against that team, Marcus Smart's way too physical for Tyrese Maxey. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown too good to kind of throw them at him. But it's like, it's going to be interesting what Doc can do. And luckily they have Embiid. Embiid's one of the best defensive anchored centers in the NBA. So that helps your case a lot. But it's going to get tricky with how you kind of stagger the minutes with Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle. Obviously, you just lost Andre Drummond as an anchor on the second unit. Where does the anchor come from there? Is it Paul Reed? I don't think he's the
Paw
answer.
Patrol, baby.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, but
now they're picking up a big. You heard Maury's comments, or you saw the comments.
Yeah,
Today
it sucks that Thompson just went off the waiver.
Who do you think it is? If you had to guess, because he basically is saying the deal is he's got somebody. They haven't announced it yet.
I hope it's Moses Brown. I don't think it's gonna be, but that's like my hope. I think him and Tyrese Maxey pair really well if they were to stagger him on the second unit and give him a lot of pick and roll action with the second unit. I think it could be Robin Lopez. But like I don't know who else. I hope it's not Enes Kanter, like for darn sure. I don't even know if he's gonna get picked up again, especially after his comments today. But I don't know. I don't really know who it could be.
Chili's going with Robin Lopez. Yeah, it's definitely a backup big for sure. It's something that Doc hinted at during the press conference that they were looking at, and Moore basically said they have one. They just haven't, formalized it yet. But it'll be interesting to see who it is. Now, let me ask you something. Obviously, we can stagger back and forth between last night and tonight and everything. But as far as the buyout market does go, let's say it is the backup big is first, right? I guess not do you expect, but now we'll go with what do you expect, because obviously what we want, we'd love for them to pick up another scorer, a backup ball handler, another scorer. We'd love for them to pick up like 3 dudes and take over the roles of, Paul Reed, Furkan Korkmaz, and as of right now, Shake Milton's looking like a tough play. But what do you expect to happen for the Philadelphia in the buyout? Do you think it's just the backup big and then they kind of go from there?
I think square one, you are right with the way they handled it. Is a backup big, and it could be done there. It all depends again on what I don't know. We haven't seen yet their game plan with Harden, Maxey, Shake, and what they want to do in terms of a primary ball handler in second unit. If you're able to stagger Maxey, you don't need another ball handler, in my opinion.
Right.
But does that mean you don't need a guy that can pour buckets in that's freakishly athletic? No, you probably do still need that, but I don't think they'll be as urgent to get it if they are saying, okay, we'll do this, this, and this, and this. And at all times, Harden or Maxey will be on the court, and maybe a brief 4 minutes.
Sounds like a tough assignment for Doc, though.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I'm praying he's going to come off the bench, but he's not going to. So I don't know. I would love for this team to get much more athletic. The idea of your second unit being Shake Milton, Danny Green, Furk, Millsap, and Niang, it sounds like a 40 and over men's league in terms of athleticism. So that's what's tough for me. Like, we say his name every year, right? Terrence Ross is such a great idea, but
never happened.
He's not going to get bought out. He never gets bought out.
And, I wish.
Corey Joseph is a ball handler, but does he get you more athletic? No. So I don't know what they're going to do. I can't express enough how much I love the idea of just having Maxey on the second unit with Shake, Furk, Niang, and Paul Millsap, and everything just be open, but it's not going to be.
Abe said, I think they only have the intent of getting a backup big, but in a crazy world where John Wall gets bought out, I would have them have to at least consider it. And he said Gary Harris is pretty cool too. Again.
I definitely would be down for Gary Harris. John Wall, I'm good on. By the time you implement John Wall in the system after not playing basketball for going on over a year, like we can't make the mistake we did with Glenn Robinson and go into the playoffs with still not knowing what each of them can do in terms of their abilities. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I'm with you. But Gary Harris would be a cool pickup. I agree, Abe. All right, dude. Let's head on over to tonight's matchup, and then obviously the trade and all. The Bucks. What's your thought process heading into this one? I know, obviously, to start the show, we laid it out. Oh, it would be a nice, a huge win to snag one, to steal one in Milwaukee right before the break and give you some momentum heading into after with Harden coming. I don't know that I feel that way. I feel like the polar opposite's coming tonight. Now that's tough to say because I don't expect the Sixers to shoot below 30% from the field again. I expect them to shoot better from the three-point line again. I expect a better performance out of Joel Embiid. But you're talking about a scorching hot Giannis Antetokounmpo at home right now, right before the All-Star break. Without Harden, still shorthanded technically, I think the Sixers could be for a long ride tonight.
I agree that it's definitely in the cards. I will say, I think Embiid has the Bucks circling on his schedule every single game after Giannis sat on the middle of the court last year. So that can change anything. Also, I'm pretty sure their starting center time will be Bobby Portis, and I don't know how much that helps them. I think Doc's at the point where if this thing gets to like 15 at some point, we maybe just pull the plug and kind of get into the All-Star break. And the Sixers held up really well in the first half of the season, looking back on it with the whole drama. And then now you make the trade, obviously. They shouldn't taint 2 games before the deadline after the trade deadline was made to kind of make a statement on what their first half of the season was. They should go into the break with a lot of confidence for what's coming out. So I do think we're at that point, like I mentioned, where they go on a 12-0 run. The game's at 17. In the middle of the third quarter, you kind of just pull the plug. But I'm not saying Philly should just roll over and die.
Right.
They're going to be without, I think, George Hill, Grayson Allen. They just got DeAndre Bembry. He's not going to be playing tonight. And then Brook Lopez is obviously out. So I don't know. I don't know if Ibaka is playing yet. So if
I didn't see him on the report.
They'll be a little thin in the front line. Even if he does play, they're still a little thin. It would just be at that point Nwora, Antetokounmpo, and Portis. Embiid is very known for getting to the foul line. You might be able to get some guys in foul trouble. Next thing you know, you might be able to steal one in Milwaukee. So it'll be interesting. It'll also be very interesting how they match up. I assume you'll probably throw the body of Tobias. Maybe you'll throw Embiid at him in terms of Giannis, that is. So I don't know what they do there. There's a lot of questions with them. How do you match up? Where do you throw Matisse? Where do you throw Maxey? Obviously, I assume the starting lineup is going to be Maxey, DG, Thibault, Tobias, and well. So Danny and Thibault will probably get the looks of Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and then you'll probably try to hide Maxey wherever. But like to me, this game is still figuring things out. I would love Paul Millsap to get some more burn.
Hell yeah, bro.
Maybe try to get him into a rhythm because he looked good the other night. His touch,
he's my boy, dude. Listen. It's one game. He came in for a half a minute against third stringers and he knocked down 2 threes and made a couple hustle plays, right? But don't tell me Paul Millsap shouldn't be in this playoff rotation going forward over, Furkan Korkmaz should be over Paul Millsap. Now, bullshit, bro. Paul Millsap can attribute a lot more to this team on the floor and off the floor than Furkan Korkmaz could. And I guess that's my only example, because outside of that, Paul Reed's he's improved night to night since he's been in, but Paul Millsap I'd still put in over Paul Reed. He should definitely get more burn tonight. I know it was his first night, and the press conference was that day, but were you surprised? Because Doc said he was going to run him a little bit that night, and he literally didn't put him in until the final 5 minutes of the game when it was a 40-point game.
Yeah, I didn't think that was what was coming. I thought he was actually going to get meaningful.
Yeah, me too. Now Doc said it'll be increased tonight. He's going to try to get him run tonight. So it'll be interesting to see. Is he the first backup big off the bench? Is Paul Reed still there?
Yeah,
I
just good.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about right after when we made the move, and it was the night of the game, the OKC game, and one of the reporters, I forget who it was, put up a tweet of the picture in the layup lines that said, "Your new backup center." It was a picture of Charles Bassey. And Doc literally hasn't played him one singular second since the move has happened.
No, he played the other night.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But you know what I mean.
No, yeah, they
not when they were down 45.
They are in on Paul Reed more than they are Charles Bassey. And I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the year, Reed blocked Giannis, I'm pretty sure, or something. And they might try to go the Paul Reed route tonight, try to get a little bit more athletic with Bobby Portis and Giannis. But I just don't my thing is this: Niang and Paul Millsap, I don't think fit each other very well. I could be wrong. That might just be from an athleticism standpoint. So the second unit with those two, I don't know how it works, if that makes sense.
Oh, dude, Doc had a lineup of 4 power forwards on the floor the other night.
This is a game where Doc will go rogue, and you might see. Because Reed, Niang, and Millsap were all out there together the other night.
Yeah, and Toby.
Yeah. Doc, man. Doc wants to get to this break more than anyone. He's had a tough year. He just traded his ground.
I think everybody does, dude. So that's why I want to compare tonight and Tuesday night versus Boston. And again, it doesn't excuse what happened. It's not a great look when you're down literally 50 points at home to a rival. I get it. And tonight, if there's something similar were to happen, a blowout loss, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good, right? But these dudes are just okay, the cavalry's here. And what date the cavalry's getting here. And the break's coming up. And it's just I don't want to say they packed it in or they're packing it in, but in the back of their mind, they have to know, like Harden said at the press conference, it's full go after the break, right? That has to be in the back of their mind, right? Come on, bro.
Yeah, it's like going to work on a Friday.
Right, exactly.
I got
with a long weekend.
I just got to get here. So you're right in that essence. But the only thing is that Joel and Giannis little tiff. I think it's there. I don't know how outspoken they've been about each other, but when you're one of the best 7 players in the world and you're playing against another one of those guys, it's marked on your calendar. Right. It has to be. It's how competitive these guys are. So the way he sat on the court next year, I swear every single game Embiid plays Giannis for the rest of his career, he'll think of that. And I still think there's a retaliation coming. I don't think it will be tonight, but
no,
we'll see.
So something I was looking at the other day, and that's why, I don't want to just chalk up these games as losses, automatically, because it's not, we're still trying to climb the standings. But when I look at these standings, it's going to be a hell of a ride come postseason time in the Eastern Conference, dude. You remember last year we were talking, when they were the 1 seed, and we're trying to figure out who's going to be that 8 seed. And obviously they took out Washington in 5 games. They're much better than Washington. But we were sitting here man, it would have been nice to put it on cruise control and not have to play a backcourt of Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal in round 1. You're looking at this year, and you're potentially on the road in Milwaukee in round 1, dude. Where's your head at with that? Because yes, Harden's here, and I believe they're in the conversation. They can win the chip this year, but round 1 versus Milwaukee, that's a scary sight. I think they have to do whatever they can. And I don't think it'll finish out that way. I think Cleveland will drop back. I think Milwaukee will ultimately take the 2 or 3 seed. Chicago will be right there. But I think, oh, wow. Abe, Tobias starting at the 3 tonight. Niang gets a start.
I told you, Doc's going rogue, dude. Now, let me ask you this. does that tell you the guy? No, I doubt it. I'm saying the guy that he's bringing in is a possible guy that you could see on the court with Embiid and Tobias, but maybe he's just filling voids for now. Wait, so who's not playing?
Danny Green,
Oh, okay.
Maxey, Thibault, Embiid, Harris, Niang.
That just means they probably wanted to get a little bit bigger against Milwaukee. But to your point of the standings are going to be, like you said, it's going to be wild, which is a little alarming with when you're bringing in a James Harden that can change everything that you've done so far this season. It takes one cold stretch, and next thing you know, you might be in this little play-in action. I don't think they'll get there. I think
No. I
mean, but they're only 2 games back from that. Is my essence. If you go on one little bad run, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the second half schedule in terms of difficulty, but I don't know. I think you're right about Cleveland. I think they'll definitely kind of maybe shadow off into that little play-in section. But you're looking at the 4 teams in the playout section right now. You're looking at Toronto, Brooklyn, Charlotte, and Atlanta. I think 3 of those 4 teams will stay there. Now, the matter of Cleveland, Philadelphia, Boston, and Brooklyn being that 4 teams that might fall to that 7 seed. And you have to play in that little play-in tournament that you don't want to play in. You saw the Warriors last year played in that play-in tournament and didn't get in. So you don't want to be one of those teams. Now, we'll see. I know we're going to play a ton of these teams. They're going to be the most important games. And like Harden said, it's a full go. It's not no nights off, no load management, no, it's cool. It's an 82-game season after the break.
All right, I do want to get to the trade and dive into it a little bit more with you in the last 10 minutes, but just looking at their remaining schedule after the break, it's at Minnesota. Obviously, I'm not going to read all the games, but just a stretch of them. At Minnesota, at Knicks, home versus Knicks, home versus Cavs. Okay, well, we found our market. From Friday, March 4th.
Yeah, they get a good schedule.
Thursday the 10th, home versus Cavs, at Heat, home versus Bulls, home versus Nets. I mean, that kind of tells you the story right there. Then you get the Magic. Then they get Denver, at Cleveland, Dallas, Toronto, Heat, at Lakers, at Clippers, at Suns, Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, I don't know off the number of my top of my head. That has to be one of the stronger schedules of the teams we've named that are kind of in this race. But, I mean, with this roster, you can go toe-to-toe with anyone, luckily. But, like I said, it takes 1 week of you lose 4 games, and it's like, oh, no, where are we at here? So, I don't know. It's going to, like, Boston's on a tear right now, but
and they just lost the Sadiq Bey and the Pistons at home last night.
The All-Star breaks here. Teams are going to cool off, and naturally is what happens. So it scares me bringing in a caliber player like that. You need to learn things quick. Luckily, we have a really good locker room, I think, a really good base of guys that can get people acclimated, get Tyrese Maxey acclimated to playing with the James Harden. And James Harden seems to be willing to put these guys under his wing, do whatever he can to help out, to get it going quicker. Because he's still practicing. You see all the pictures and everything. He's still going through things, I'm sure. And at the end of the day, you have 2 of the best 7 players on the planet.
They'll figure it out.
7 players on the planet. It can be figured out off skill, which we've never had that feeling.
No.
We had Ben, we had Tobias, we had Joel, and you were looking, we've one of the best trios in the NBA. Now it's like you're going into every game with 2 of the best 3 players on the court, and that's a beyond great feeling.
Right. Yeah. So real quick, around the league right now, the Heat are down by 7 in Charlotte at halftime, and Brooklyn is up 2 versus the Wizards just starting the second quarter. So 2 of those teams would lose tonight.
Pulling Brooklyn out of poverty.
Yeah, facts, bro. Cam Thomas goes for 16 in the fourth quarter. Get the fuck out of here. But whatever, I'm not even worried about them. But let's get to this trade for the last couple of minutes and just kind of, think about what it means, dude. So you and I went on with Scotty and Kata and Parcero the day of the trade deadline, and we broke it down a little bit, but let's do it again here, because what does it really mean? Again, obviously, we just talked about skill alone, they can figure it out, and James and Joel, but how is he going to change the dynamic of this team? How's he going to elevate Joel Embiid? How can Joel Embiid elevate him? One thing that everyone loves to talk about, and rightfully so, is the pick and roll between the 2 of those guys, right? And I'm 100% excited to see it as well. But there's going to be a difference. Like, one thing that everyone talks about is the different type of center that he is, obviously, compared to previous centers. And let's just use Clint Capella as the example, right? A lot of previous centers of Harden in that pick and roll were like strictly rim runners. Like they had no mid-range game. They couldn't put the ball on the floor. They were just rim runners, get it off the glass or throw it down, right? This is different because obviously Joel can rim run here. He will here and there. But I think it's more of a pick and pop kind of, dynamic, not so much of a pick and roll to the basket. What's your, outside, what are you thinking there?
Yeah, you completely got it. Joel can do it in so many different ways, so it makes it that much more difficult to guard. When you're guarding James Harden pick and roll with the Clint Capella, you're worried about, okay, we got to get the ball out of James's hands as fast as possible and retreat to the point where Clint Capella is not going to make a play out of that pick and roll. Joel Embiid
Right.
can make a play. Joel Embiid can catch the ball 15 feet, shoot it. Joel Embiid can catch the ball 15 feet, put his back to you, turn around jumper. Joel Embiid can catch the ball 15 feet, throw a skip pass to a shooter in the corner. It makes it that much harder to guard. With the amount of pressure these two can put on a pick and roll, you could be inside 15 feet with two one-on-one matchups against two of the hardest players to guard in the entire NBA. So it's everything in terms of those guys getting together in cohesion. I think they will. And you're looking at those two, obviously, and then how much easier it is for Tobias Harris, how much
Right.
easier it is
That's the biggest thing for me, dude.
when you get defensive shifted back and forth and you have, I assume Tyrese Maxey's one of the fastest players in the NBA, able to catch the ball, rip, and get to the rim, which he does super, super well. And then obviously you have Tobias Harris, who struggled to start the year to make open shots. He's getting better. He's getting back on his pace of catching, making quick decisions, getting shots up quicker. And his life becomes a lot more one-on-one. His life becomes a lot more, let me get to my 15-foot pull-up. And that's huge.
See,
Also, go ahead.
I agree with you, but he's also going to have to be able and willing to shoot from three with
No,
James
1
Harden
million
on the
percent.
floor.
That's in the James Harden teammate rule book. You have to
Right.
shoot open threes.
Right. And he's going to have to. He's going to have to knock a high percentage of them down, which I think he will. And that's the biggest thing. When you mentioned the one-on-one there, what was Tobias's biggest issue earlier in the year? Well, obviously adjusting, right? And he's got a lot more on-ball duties, bringing the ball up the floor, etc. But also the fact that he's now getting the opposition's primary defender. Like he's getting their number one wing defender, right? That's no longer going to be the case. What was so great about last year's Tobias Harris, the should have been all-star Tobias Harris. It was Joel, Ben, he gets the mismatch. He gets the third option. He's able to put his back to the basket against smaller two guards or three wings that are on him. He gets to do that again. And obviously I know coming off a Tuesday night, he didn't shoot a lot at all. He had a very bad game. Everybody did. So it doesn't sound great to hype him up and talk about it right now. But before that, he was playing very, very solid basketball on this team for weeks on weeks now. So you just have to hope and think that he'll continue to do that once James Harden gets here because his life becomes so much easier.
The thing that Ben did so well, and James Harden does it probably even better, is just creating so much attention in the paint. Ben would get to the paint and 3-4 guys, but the difference with Ben was he draw attention, but he didn't draw attention to score as much. And it made Tobias' life that much easier with Ben. I can't even imagine how much it's going to be with with James. So that's super exciting. Danny Green, Furk, like they're all going to feed so much
They
better.
have to hit shots, though,
Yeah,
man.
and the looks they're going to get are going to be way more open than they ever been. They were open when Joel was kicking out of double teams. Now they're going to be even more open with the guy that's led the league in assists in the last 5 years. I'm pretty sure. So
Niang's another big one, dude. He's been struggling as well from beyond the arc as of late. He's going to have to pick it back up. So it'll definitely be very, very interesting. My question is, once it gets to playoff time, we talk about this every year, and obviously last year under Doc, and we'll get to it again this year, I'm sure. But what's his rotation? How deep down the bench does he go? Do guys have short leashes? Like Furkan Korkmaz, right? We're sitting here just saying Furkan Korkmaz, theoretically, with the way he is capable of shooting the three ball, could fit nicely next to those dudes because he's going to get open looks. Problem is, what's Furkan Korkmaz shooting from three this year again?
I have no clue. It's not good.
It's low 30%, I'm pretty sure. So what's his leash? Like we always say, well, if he's not hitting open shots, he can't be on the floor. He's damn near unplayable on both sides. And Doc kind of has let him, hang out there for a while. Now, really, next to James Harden and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, if he's shooting 32% from three continuously with them, how short is this dude's leash?
It's minuscule, and I'll tell you why. James Harden hasn't been on a team in his NBA career where more than 8 guys play in a playoff rotation, and I don't care if Doc Rivers has done it previously. I don't think it's going to happen much longer. You, like we mentioned, like I just mentioned before, 2 of the best 7 players on the planet are on your roster. You have another guy that I think is going to get back to form of what he was last year when he was probably
Right.
on the cusp of a top 25 player in the NBA.
And then
And
you
then
got the
Tyrese
young
Maxey,
kid in
who's
Max.
only he's just getting better and better. So then you go into your bench of reliability, in my opinion. You have your Danny Green. Obviously, that would be Matisse in the starting lineup with them. But Danny Green, you're going to have a backup big, and you're going to have 1, maybe 2 guys to make shots after that. After that,
I'd have to imagine Niang's playing.
yeah, I think Niang will play, and maybe one other guy that can make shots. So maybe that would be 9, but you're not going to get more than probably 10 minutes out of that 9th guy, I think. James Harden needs to be on the court in the playoffs, and so does Joel Embiid. And they're going to be on the court. Hopefully Doc's not stupid is the term I should use there.
Right. Here's something interesting. They're both going to be on the court a ton. Obviously, we both want them on the court together a ton, and they will be. But I think Doc needs to have 2 of Maxey, Tobias, Embiid, and Harden have to be on the floor at all times, in my opinion. 2 of them.
I agree. And
unless it's like Embiid, you know what I mean? But 2 of those dudes should always be on the floor together at all times. And the biggest thing for me is in years past with Joel, even if it was 8 minutes that he didn't play, those 8 minutes the Sixers would get killed. They go on scoring drought. If you have James Harden on the floor for 6 of those 8 minutes that Embiid's not, well, now you got a dude that's capable of just straight hooping and getting buckets when Joel Embiid's not on the floor still.
Exactly. And hopefully, like I mentioned, hopefully you're getting a big in here that's just going to be a backup rim protector, a backup screener that is going to make life easier for Tyrese Maxey, for James Harden. So that'll be interesting. The buyout market is fastly approaching, and I think it's more important than ever. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely more important than last year. So
I agree. And I think those, whether it's one player, whether it's a backup big, a guy that can get you a bucket off the bench, it's going to be very interesting for what Doc does, because if those guys come in, you're bringing them in for a purpose, right? To play and to fill holes. Well, what's that do? Is Doc going to shun the Furkan Korkmaz of the world, the Paul Reed, the Shake Milton, like the Shake Milton get cut loose after this down the bench. But all right, again, we got to get up on out of here. But prediction for tonight, what are you feeling?
I think the Sixers get rocked tonight. I'm going to go like 116, 101, something like that.
Right. I think the Sixers lose tonight too. I think they lose probably around the same margin, anywhere from that 10 to 15 margin. I think they hang in it for a little bit. I think Embiid will have a dominant night for the first half or so. I think ultimately it'll be too much shorthanded. Obviously on the road in Milwaukee last game, they just want to get to the break and get, healthier and have James Harden back. So I think the Sixers lose tonight. I said I thought they'd win on Tuesday, so maybe a little bit of a reverse jinx there, hopefully. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap up this this Thursday edition of the Phaithful Fanatic Show. As always, you can catch me on Twitter at DylanJD98. And, of course, my faithful co-host to my right, who's about to go take a nap, if he could, at Matt_McGinty. We're brought to you by DSM Media. And don't forget to check out our partners over at Manscaped. Head on over to manscaped.com and use our promo code DSM for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that is code DSM, all caps, at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. For myself, for Gint, for DSM Media, go Sixers, and have a great night.